Hello everybody, welcome to another watercolor tutorial. We are painting this wheat flower field that is inspired by Guan's art. I'm going to attempt this with this new set of watercolors that I have. Depending on when this video is released, you would have either heard me talk about this in so many videos, or this will be one of the first videos where I talk about this palette. But it's highly recommended. The link is in the description if you want it. And hopefully I will upload the tutorial where I tried it for the first time before this tutorial so that you're not confused. But I'm gonna just jump right into it. We are first going to paint the background. So we're gonna have a very light sky in portrait position, by the way, that is fading into a wheat field. So I'm gonna try to choose like a very light blue. So this palette has so many color options that I'm a little bit overwhelmed with them. My previous palette I had, and I still have, for 3 years, and that's what I used, and it has 24 colors. And so if I ever needed, you know, a unique color, then I had to mix it myself with the colors that I have available. Whereas this one has so many that it's a little bit of an adventure trying to figure out what color you need. So I'm kind of going with I'm mixing a blue that's almost white with a baby blue. It's going to take me a little bit of time to get used to all of these color options. Like, that is too much of a baby blue. I need like a little bit of almost purple in this, but it's not purple. Again, so many color options, it's hard to figure out. No, that's just more blue. Actually, no. Sorry guys. Maybe add this purple. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I just taped the borders of my piece of paper. I reused tape from a previous painting, which I don't really recommend because when I get the borders wet, you see how the green now transfers onto my background. Not ideal, because I don't want my sky to be green, but what are you gonna do? Okay, my friends, very unfortunately, I did not notice that the memory on my filming device was full and it turned off. Luckily, I didn't get too far. Like, this is just the background that we've done. So I think you saw me painting until like the blue part of the background. All I did was I faded it with a gradient, just like I do with most of my backgrounds, into a nude and then into a yellow, and then I basically took black and brown and kind of spread that upwards a little bit. So it's just a very simple gradient. I added a cloud, but that's totally optional, and you're gonna just let that completely dry. The thing that I'm upset about is you missed all my commentary. Now I don't know if what I'm going to say is gonna make if it's gonna make sense, because you didn't hear what I said up until this point. I was basically praising this palette, this new watercolor set I have. Whatever, we're just gonna have to roll with it. So now that this is dry, which I'm really hoping that it is mostly dry because I tend not to let things dry completely, we're gonna do something that I have not been able to do very much with my previous palette. and we're gonna layer on lighter colors on top of darker colors. And this is only possible because these paints are so amazing. They're watercolors, but they're almost gouache consistency. Not that I've ever used gouache, but this is what I imagine that the texture would feel like, or because they're just so thick and pigmented. So we're gonna try and paint on top of this black, or this brown. So our wheat field, let me see here. How are we gonna tackle this? So it looks like I have very, very bright yellow at the very top. And then it gets a little bit like a sandy color as we move downwards. So I'm just picking up it's so pigmented. I just cannot reiterate that enough. So starting from somewhere where your yellow starts turning into like a pale color, we're just going to flick our paintbrush upwards. But actually I don't like, this one is too thick. I'm using a, what is this? It's a size 1 by Winsor & Newton, but it's too thick. So I'm gonna try a 00. I have a lot more control with this one. It's better, but the best would be using my 0. The reason why I'm not is because I have to do so many of these that it would take a really long time since it's so thin. Like I'd have to constantly reload my brush. And I don't want to do that. So I'm just gonna have thicker wheat strands. So it's Sunday and it's a really nice morning, and it's supposed to be a very nice day today. Yesterday it poured all day, so I filmed most of my July tutorials. I think I filmed 6 of them yesterday, and then I'm gonna do the remaining 3 today, but I'm just squeezing this one in the morning, and then while my breakfast is digesting, and then I'll do the remaining 2 in the evening when it's dark and the mosquitoes are out. But I've got a lot of gardening to do as usual. I'm taking some nude and mixing that into the yellow because I want it to be more pale, like more of a sandy color. And just more opaque, I think. Like if it's cloudier, then it's going to show through much better, I think. But as we move down our painting this way, these individual strands of wheat will be a lot more visible because we'll be moving onto a darker and darker plane. So like even if I just quickly show you, like, oh, you didn't even see that. That wasn't even on the camera. Like look how much, it's the exact same one as here, but it's significantly darker because the contrast is bigger. But see, I don't know if I would have been able to do this with the old watercolors that I used, because they were not as opaque. Like I had to really drench my brush in pigment before I could pick up enough to achieve anything like this. So very happy with this set. I think that the company asked for 2 features of this set, and I just said, I'm like, I'm not featuring anything unless I like it. I'm not going to promote anything unless I will use it myself. I'm just saying it in every single video that I love it because it's really such an incredible, like, the quality, the opacity is really like nothing else I've ever tried. So they chose a good person to try this out on, because I don't really experiment too much with too many watercolors and supplies. I just stick with what I use. But I liked this set. The only reason I agreed to this, like having them send me this and try it out, is because it had metallic colors in it. And I really wanted to try out the metallic colors for, not for tutorials necessarily, but just for personal painting. And they're so opaque. Like, I painted this July wreath, which you will either see after this or it has already been released. But yeah, I'm so impressed with the quality. Super duper happy. Oh, that's a little bit too white for my liking. Had some yellow back in. So that's too thick. I don't like how thick that is. I think I'm gonna have to switch to my quadruple zero. I really don't want to, because the brush strokes are shorter and I have to reload so many more times. It's an amazing brush for details, but like fine details, not long brush strokes. I should get a liner brush for that purpose. But I am a little bit lazy. Let's try whatever this color is. It's like an orangey brown. Okay, I am going to just use a bigger brush to pick up the color that I need. Because I'm using this tiny brush to pick up the color off of the palette, and it's taking a long time. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but it is like end of May, like we're coming up to the end of May, and I keep checking the forecast and it keeps switching, like pushing back the cold nights, which is very frustrating because I need to plant things outside. Like, they're really struggling in the plastic cups that I have them growing in inside. They really want more room for their roots, and I'm scared that I'm gonna lose them if I wait too much longer. I've already lost too many to a physiological disorder called edema. I didn't even know that plants could have physiological disorders, but I guess it makes sense. It's a living thing. It's a water uptake issue where they take up too much for what they can handle, and then they swell and essentially implode. Like, the water implodes. It explodes inside the plant stem and the leaves, and it creates these really gross looking warts along the stem and the leaves, and eventually that kills the plant. You can save them. I've tried to save mine, but they don't look very good. Like, they're still alive, but I don't know how they're gonna do. And I don't want to buy the plants because I grow so many things that if I had to buy seedlings, I would just be spending an obscene amount of money. So the constant struggle. Lots of things to look forward to, guys. Lots and lots of things. Like this July will be done today, and then hopefully August I can do next week. And then when I go to the city, I can upload them all in the library with the faster internet. Okay, so I'm gonna add some like the tops of the wheat, if you know what I mean. They have like, I don't know, the wheat heads? I don't know what it's called. Where the grain grows for the wheat. I'm gonna add some of those just to add some variety to this painting. And it's very easy. You just paint on either side of like a stem. Okay, and then we'll add some smaller ones in the background that are kind of barely visible, but they are there. In hindsight, I would have liked to have this a lot higher. Like have more wheat and less sky. My foot is falling asleep because I'm sitting sideways. So you can add these wheat heads, like as many as you want to your painting. I'm just going to keep going until it starts to look too crowded. And I do have to say, like, even though I am very impressed with the opacity of these watercolors, like they are really doing so well for watercolors. I don't want anyone to get the impression that this is like acrylic opacity, because it surely is not. You can still, like, it's still not as opaque, you know, as even gouache probably. I've never used gouache, so my reviews on it perhaps are not the most, don't go off of my reviews. But I can imagine, like this, I'm just comparing my experiences to, like my experiences using my previous palette, which, I mean, you saw me use that thing for 3 years for every single tutorial that you've seen on this channel. So it's a good palette and it was great to practice on, certainly. But this is when you've been using something that you thought was good or average or whatever, and then you finally try something that blows your mind. It's quite the experience. You're like, why did I struggle with that for so long? Okay. So I think I'm fairly happy with the amount of wheat that I've got growing here in my foreground. We are going to spruce this up though. We're going to add a dash of color with these beautiful blue flower blossoms. I don't even know what kind of flowers they are, but it'll add a really nice contrast to our painting here. I don't know what's going on with this. It's a little bit large for my liking. Okay. So we're gonna use like a purpley blue color for these flowers. And again, I'm overwhelmed with the amount of blue options I have. We'll go with this blue. Ooh, that created a really nice green when I mixed it with the yellow. I'm gonna pick up, you can't really see it, I apologize. As I'm mixing my colors, maybe I should zoom out a little bit. I can't really move. So I'm using my old palette to do mixing. And it's really hard to get everything in the frame. So I'm just mixing. The reason why it appears like a turquoisey green is because I just mixed the blue right in with the yellow. Because I didn't want to, like there was a lot of white in there, which will make the colors stand out a lot more. So I didn't want to have that go to waste. So I'm just, you know, trying to make it a lot more blue now, but it's too blue. I don't want it to be like a baby blue. It has to be a nice, chalky, purpley blue, sort of like this. That's getting much closer to the color that I want. The metallic colors in this palette are super opaque. So maybe I can use some of those. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go through these colors so quickly because they're so thick, for sure. All right, I'm sorry, I cannot have all of this in the frame. I just don't have enough room here, so You're just gonna have to deal with not seeing me mix colors. I think you'd rather see the painting anyways. I'll zoom out so you can see the full thing, because I like to paint outside the frame clearly often. So I am going to use my size 00 Winsor Newton for this part, and we're just going to create these little flowers essentially that are growing. So I'll have kind of a large one down here. So the way that I'm painting these flowers, I'm starting with a central point. Here, maybe I will go a little bit closer. I'm starting with a central point, and then I'm going outwards like this. And I'm gonna let that dry and then go over it with a darker one, I think, for a bottom, like just underneath it a little bit. So we'll have another set out here. And then another one here. And you can always do multimedia, like you don't have to do watercolor the entire painting. If you want to go and add some acrylic paint because you want these flowers to stand out, like go for it. I've done that. I use white acrylic paint all the time on top of my watercolor paintings. Did I say that right? Acrylic on top of watercolor, because I want them to stand out. So please don't feel like you need to stick to your watercolor, especially if yours aren't as opaque as mine. Like then this would just be pointless. I'm gonna pause the flowers because I want to paint the stems of the flowers. So what I'm gonna do is take a little bit of black and a little bit of green. So it's a nice dark green here. And I'm taking my quadruple zero brush, and I'm just going to connect some of these stems. So they have these like funny bulbs. So I'm sure this is a specific type of flower, but I'm not a botanist. And I could not be bothered to look it up. Yeah?
Oh, so beautiful.
Right, apologies. I was taken away from my painting by my husband, who had to use the toilet. Now he's laughing as he hears me saying that. For those that don't know, if you're a regular viewer, then you know I film in my bathroom. For many reasons. I'm not even gonna bother going into them again, but yeah, we only have one bathroom, so we have to make do with the circumstances, you know? So all we're doing here is painting these flowers. I think adding these little delicate leaves to the stems certainly adds a nice element, so I encourage it if you can or if you want to. They're nice and delicate. Let's see, where else are we going to paint these? I'm gonna have one coming up. Past the painting this way. Oh, I don't think I mentioned. Maybe I did, but we got chickens. It's been such a hectic time. So much is going on. I haven't been really keeping track of what I've said to you guys. Not that you need to know about every aspect of my life, but yeah, we got chickens. After a couple of years of just passively suggesting it to my husband, I started much more actively asking for them. And so we finally got them. We built the coop ourselves. And I think they're pretty happy chickens. They have a beautiful place to spend their days. Organic food. We feed them organic feed, but we also give them scraps from the kitchen. They go absolutely crazy for watermelon. It is so funny to watch. They quite honestly trample over one another. And it's funny because the ones that are getting trampled, they just kind of take it. They don't protest. They're just like, this is my life now. This is how it is. They're so funny. And my husband, who really needed to be convinced to get these chickens, he is the one that's getting like the most joy out of them. He calls them his ladies. And he just watches them. He talks to them like they're his children or something. It's very cute. He opens the door and feeds them out of his hand. So funny. So yeah, I'm just painting these flowers wherever there's kind of like a blank space that I can fill. And you know, you can paint the stems first or you can paint the flowered part first. It's up to you. Whatever you're more comfortable with. But I'm gonna paint more up here simply because they show better on this lighter part. Okay, this painting is taking forever. I think I am going to stop soon. Like I think I'll keep painting with the camera off because you don't need to see me painting the exact same process of a flower over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like you get the process of how to do it. And if I make this video much longer, then it's going to take forever to save on my computer. Because like everything else, I have 5, 6, 7, 15-year-old versions of things, and things take longer. Like I really need to replace my phone. I think it's 6 years old and it still works, but there's a lot of features. Like people know that they can't send me pictures because I just won't receive them on my phone. My phone just will not. Although I think that's because I don't have data, and that is something I'm not going to compromise on. Like not having data, both my husband and I don't have data on our phones, and I've never had data on my phone, so I don't really know what I'm missing. And I think it does improve our life, because when we leave the house and we're not in a place that has Wi-Fi, we have to be totally present. We don't have an option to go on our phones. There have been times where that has been extremely inconvenient. Like if we're purchasing something off of Marketplace and the address that they gave us is wrong, or like we can't reach them in the original method and I don't have internet to, contact them, that gets pretty annoying. Like we've had to deal with that in very creative ways, but that happens. It doesn't happen often enough for me to want to purchase a data plan. I encourage it if you are interested in exploring a data-free life. Like just have Wi-Fi, just use the Wi-Fi. And then when you leave the house, no internet unless you're at a store that has internet. And like so many places have internet that if you really need to use it for whatever reason, you're not stuck in this pinch. Like you do have options. For instance, I have this points program with a grocery store, and you need to have internet in order to like go on the app to use the points, but that grocery store has Wi-Fi, so I just connect to the Wi-Fi to load the points, and then I'm good to go in the store. I had a point. What was going to be my point to this? To not having... Oh, yeah, just saying that I have very ancient technology. My laptop, that is also 6 or 7 years old. And I bought it in my last year of university. Because I knew I was going traveling for a year and I needed something really light and small, compact. And I remember I got it almost for free because I joined all these websites that paid you for your notes, for your university notes. And because I was in my last semester of my last year, I had so many complete notes from every class I ever took. So they gave me all these Amazon gift cards in exchange for my notes, and that laptop was free. Almost free. It was almost free. So that was a really good find. I feel very fortunate for stumbling into that, but it's coming It's getting to a point where I need to replace the laptop, unfortunately, because it no longer holds... Ow! I just smacked my hand into the sink. It no longer holds a charge, so it has to be permanently plugged in, which is obviously a little inconvenient. Okay, how many more of these flowers should I paint? Maybe I should just paint some of these stems without flowers, just to have like that they're going to blossom soon. Very nice. I'll have one coming off of here. I feel like I should have another flower down here, but you know what? Like, I don't think I'm gonna keep going. You kind of get the point. You can peel the tape off. I'm still gonna keep going, but I'm just gonna be doing more of the same thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please let me know what you think in the comments. Hit like on this video, and I'll be sure to see you in the next tutorial.